I am in my garden and I wanted to point out some plants that are growing in the wild spaces here, in the places that we haven't been cultivating intentionally, that are in a lot of spaces around the Bay Area and all throughout California. So these are plants that can be eaten raw and tossed into massage salads. I really like salads this time of year. Starting around now in the winter time, I find that they really cool me down and they don't give me the depth of nutrition that I'm really looking for. But starting in the springtime into summer, wild food salads can be bright and cooling for my body that tends to get overheated pretty easily during those times. So one of my favorite plants that's growing all around my garden that has just clung to me, wanting to say hello, is Cleavers. And you'll probably find it all throughout the wildish spaces around you. This is a plant that is easily identifiable by its excitement to stick to clothes, to shoes, to all parts of the body, and to skin. It's just hanging on me right now. It isn't sticky though. It has these Velcro-like hairs all over it, especially on the stem and the bottom parts of the leaves. And Cleavers is an excellent ally in helping our lymphatic system do its job. The lymphatic system doesn't have a pump of its own. It rides on the back of the circulatory system, which has the pump of the heart, obviously. And the lymphatic system is benefited greatly by plants that help move lymph, and also, of course, by movement and getting the heart pumping. So Cleavers, it's kind of like licking, or it's like if you were a cat licking another cat on the tongue, or if your cat licks your hand. This is what it feels like. It's not the most appealing sensation, but if you squeeze it and massage it into a salad, the Velcro-like pieces deactivate, they get destroyed, and it becomes a really nice salad green. I also really like to juice it, take a big mat of it and put it in my Vitamix with a little bit of water, and then blend it and pass it through a nut milk bag. You can also pass it through a wheatgrass juicer and pour the juice into ice cube trays and freeze it, and then pop them out of the trays and put them in a Ziploc bag and save it for times when you're trying to boost your immunity and really give your immune system support. Your immune system is always flushing out foreign invaders and dead white blood cells, and it can just be really helped by the allies that are popping out right now. So that's Cleavers. And you can identify, of course, by the way it cleaves to you, as I said earlier. That's number one ID. But it's this really beautiful growth pattern where it grows in these clusters. I wonder if I can get a little piece to show you. It grows in these clusters. You see one cluster there, another cluster there, another cluster there. And they look like kind of like a starburst shape. And at the top there, the starburst, just the fractal, gets smaller and smaller until it's just barely there. So when I harvest these, I like to harvest a big old mat and process it right away. Yeah, the juice is my favorite part of that medicine. I find it to be very potent. And it's a great little snack for the field. It's very sweet and a little bit spicy. Another of my favorite plants that I'm also sitting on is what's giving me this great scent right now. This is a spring onion, wild onions. And I just picked it by the base of the stem. But it also grows a bulb that if you go all the way down to the base of the plant and part all the other grasses aside, and I don't know if this one is big enough to do it, but you can hold the plant by the base and gently pull out, and that will pull out the whole base of the wild onion. And if it's late enough in the season, it'll have all these little bulbs attached to it, and you can replant those to make sure that it grows back year after year. It reproduces by bulb, also by seed, but planting the bulbs back after harvesting ensures that you'll have a really good harvest year after year. And these are such amazing plants that you want to ensure that you're not depleting your supply, or the supply of your neighbors that you're harvesting on their land if they let you. You can identify the wild onion by the kind of like the raised bit on the back here. Of course, smells really oniony if you rub it just a little bit. You don't have to break it apart to identify it. But you can see this raised vein on the back here. And if you look at the front, it's not super indented. It has a little bit of an indent in the middle. But these flowers have 6 petals. They're white with the green stripe down the middle. The flowers are edible. The whole stem is edible, and of course the root is edible. The onions are great for pickling. They're great for chopping and using as you would any other onion. They're delicious raw, great cooked. Yeah, I like to dehydrate. I'll harvest a lot of them and dehydrate them and powderize them and sprinkle them on my food year round. They're also great to add in small quantities to sauerkraut and other ferments. But the sulfurous flavor can get a little bit overwhelming unless you like that, if it's too much, like any other onion. Okay, so one other plant that I wanted to show you before the end of the video is a plant that is all around the East Bay Hills right now, and I think it's just a really valuable one to know at this time. It's called wild lettuce, and it looks like this. This one is a first-year plant. You can tell because it's growing in a basal rosette where it's all still in one, all of it is growing from the center where the base meets the earth. In the second year, it'll grow a really stark stalk up, and the leaves will shoot off. And to me, it really looks like an arrow that's shooting straight into the earth, which is, it reminds me of the property that it has of, it's extremely cooling and it's a central nervous system depressant. And plants like wild lettuce, or opium lettuce is another name for it, operate in a similar way to other central nervous system depressants like opium and California poppy, in that they really bring us into a sedated state and help us access the subterranean world, or the underworld, which is a place that's invaluable to be in relationship with, either through meditation or through working with plants. But it's also like the arrow shooting into the earth. We can get stuck there. And of course, opium addiction is a huge thing that we're wanting to be aware of when working with these plants. But it's a really incredible pain reliever and analgesic that is great for topical pain, also very soothing to nerves, especially when people have had any kind of PTSD that they are on constant high alert from. I've used it when I've tripped and fallen in my garden. There was a time when I stepped on a piece of rebar and fell, and I fell right onto a wild lettuce plant. And I picked off a piece of the leaf and I put it right on my foot where I had punctured it, and the pain went away immediately, within a few seconds. It's a very powerful pain reliever. I identify it first by its look. It of course looks like, this is, it looks like a lettuce, just this one's massive. Often they'll get in spaces that aren't watered as much. They'll be usually 6 inches diameter to a foot, maybe max, sometimes larger. This one is huge. It's probably 3 feet in diameter. There are several varieties of it. Lactuca serrata, Lactuca virosa. This is the virosa variety. It's more of a curve shape around the edges. The serrata is serrated. So one identifier is looking along the back of the stem. And you'll see these hairs. I don't know if you can really see them very well in the video, but I think that you can see them a little bit now. They're hairs along the back of the stem on the very middle part, facing directly opposite the front of the leaf. So they're perpendicular to the leaf, and they're not sharp. The plant is extremely bitter, and that latex that is exuded at the base is super bitter. That's the lactones, the medicine. You can toss a little bit in your salad. Again, it's a super bitter plant. The flavor isn't, unless you really want that. It's a little overwhelmingly bitter for culinary enjoyment, of course, unless you're into that. bitters stimulate the production of digestive juices, so both of saliva, and I can feel my mouth getting really juicy already, hydrochloric acid, all the juices of the intestinal tract. It really helps with that so that we can digest our food better. And also is really helpful for stimulating the production of reproductive juices, all the juices in the body. So yeah, enjoy. It's a powerful medicine, and I would say with this one especially, it can be a drop dose plant, or a plant that you want to take in very, very small amount of, in very small doses, to get the medicine. And if you don't, then you'll be in that underworld sedated space for, maybe you really enjoy it, but maybe it'll be longer than you're looking for. So again, start really small, get to know the plant, ask the plant if it wants to be harvested. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, very powerful plants. These three plants grow all around the Bay Area, up in Davis, up to Mendocino, all throughout this beautiful land.